Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Abigail Grace, or Abby, and it's come to the end of the month again. And that means another monthly reading wrap up. I have again read way too much, so I'm going to try and go through these books as quickly and concisely as possible. This is going to be spoiler free. I have several reading vlogs where I read these books, but I don't read all of these books in reading vlogs. So if you feel like you're missing out on the content from these books, you should go follow me on TikTok and Instagram, because I talk about books that I don't always do reading vlogs for on those platforms. So that's where you can find more information about these books if I don't fulfill the desires that you have about these books. So we're going to start at the beginning of the month. This month I firstly read, I'm going to save that one because I read it later on, Crimson River and Jasper Vale. These are books 4 and 5 in the Edens series by Devney Perry. I read the first 3 in January, and I read the last 3. You'll see this final book for this series in a second. But these are interconnected standalones set in Quincy, Montana. They follow all the different Eden siblings. There's 6 siblings, 6 books. Each sibling gets a book. This one is kind of like a mystery. It starts out with the main FMC getting attacked, and the rest of the book is kind of them trying to find the man who did it, and the cop that's trying to help fall in love. It's not giving cop romance, I promise. This one's actually one of my favorites in the whole series. I ended up giving it, I think 4 stars. Yes, I ended up giving it 4 stars. And this one is, I don't want to say accidental marriage, because it's Vegas marriage and they stay married to convince the FMC's parents that she's responsible and can carry on the family business. So both of these are 4 stars, but all in all the series is 5 stars. And I did in fact read it on my Kindle and then buy the physical copies because I liked it so much that I needed to have the physical copies. I believe these are traditionally published. At least some of them are traditionally published. Hey Kate, come on. But these are the indie copies, but the cover stayed the same. So, read those this month. Next, I read the highly anticipated and slightly disappointing House of Flame and Shadow. I have a whole full spoiler reading vlog of this, so I'm not going to talk about it. I did end up giving this a generous 4 stars. It was good. It was just disappointing. So go watch that video if you want to hear my thoughts about this book. Next, I read Love Interest by Claire Gilmore. This, I believe, is her debut novel. I just randomly saw this at the bookstore and was like, oh, come on, Kate. That looks interesting. It's a workplace romance. It's like rivals to lovers. He falls first. Yeah, it was really good. And it's set in New York. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I read One Moment Please by Amy Dawes. This is a accidental pregnancy. I saw someone recommended on TikTok as an accidental pregnancy book, and so I was like, I kind of feel like reading something like that. I'm gonna read it. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I knew based on the cover what I was gonna be getting when I started the book, so I can't be too upset with how it turned out. So Therefore, I'm giving it 3 stars. That feels generous. I do think it's more of a 2-star book. Okay, next I reread the Lachlan Feuds. There's 4 books in the series: The Scarlet Princess, Tarnished Crown, Crimson Kingdom, Obsidian Throne. These are a 5-star series for me. They are by Robin Molly and L. Madison. There's other books set in the same like Lachlan universe, other series, but these, I haven't read any of the other ones. And these are so good. I read them in November of last year, and I was just getting a hankering to reread them because I love them so much. And that's what I do, apparently, because I reread so much recently. I've just been rereading, and maybe that's a sign that I am looking for comfort, and these books provide it for me. And it's one of those things where each book ends on a cliffhanger, so you just have to have the next one readily available. This is a 4-star series. I highly recommend. They're all in Kindle Unlimited also. Okay, next I read Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This was my first 5-star read of the year that wasn't a reread. So I did have some 5-star reads in January that were rereads. So I'm not counting those. This was the first book that I read for the first time that was 5 stars. It's Accidental Pregnancy. It's Friends to Lovers, which I think is it was so good and so sweet. And I loved the 2 main characters. Like, I loved their friendship becoming what it was, and it was really good. And also this cover is just stunning. This was my book of the month pick, but I had 2 book of the months, and actually the next one that I read is also book of the month. So if you like Accidental Pregnancy, I would say pick this book up. Some people don't like Accidental Pregnancy, and that's totally fine. I do. So this was a win for me. Set in New York, just stunning. Everything was stunning about it. Okay, here is the next book of the month book that I was talking about. This was also 5 stars for me. Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I had never read any books by her. She's got a few other romantasy books out, but the tagline on this is her deadliest enemy or her greatest love. It is enemies to lovers. It's a witch and a witch hunter. It's like fake dating. It is everything I wanted and more in a fantasy, and I can already see myself reaching to reread this again and again, and I can't wait for the next books in this series to come out. So 5 stars. Well done, Kristen. I will be picking up other books by her now because this was just, it was amazing. Like I said, I read the final book in the Eden series, Sable Peak. This follows the last and youngest sibling, and it's single dad, and it's like she has been pining after him for years, and finally like gets drunk and confronts him about it, and then he realizes, oh wait, how have I been so stupid? She's right in front of me this whole time. This is 4 stars. Not because the storyline was necessarily my favorite, really because it was the conclusion to the series that I needed and wanted and was well done. So, as I said, this series is so well done. It's light spice. It's spicy but light. And if you're looking for a good small town romance, I would recommend this series. Next, I read To Woo and to Wed by Martha Waters. This is a conclusion to a historical romance series that follows different characters in a friend group. This is second chance romance, and basically throughout the whole series, Martha has been teasing the falling out that these 2 characters had, Sophie and West. She's been teasing they had some kind of falling out, but we don't know what it is. So for 4 books, we've been getting hints of their story, and now we finally got their story in this one. I think the series is really well done. Again, there's spice, but it's really not too bad. I would put it maybe lower than a Bridgerton book on the spice, maybe around the same level as a Bridgerton book. And the cover is just this color, this everything is just so cute to me. And I love having a completed series finally. So this was 4 stars to me. Next, I read Possessive Heart, which is the newest Starlight Cove book. I read the first 4, maybe in December or January, and they were basically just garbage romance books, smut, very smutty. And this one came out this month, so obviously I read it. These are short, like 300 pages or less. This is brother's best friend, and he's a hockey player. It's set in this small town in Maine, and it just has a bunch of things that you know to expect from a good romance book, and it is what you want. If you want this, you're getting it, you know? I don't know how to describe it except for that. It's 3 stars. I think the whole series is 3 stars. It's not good enough for me to buy physical copies of them. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. And if you want something short, spicy, to the point, then I would recommend this series for you. Also, the covers are just atrocious. Next, I reread Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I have been on my rereading Lynn Painter's YA books kick. I reread Better Than the Movies and The Do-Over last year, and now I have reread Betting on You, which came out in October, so not that long ago. Charlie is just, his sarcastic comments are on point. The banter between him and Bailey is so good. All the best tropes are in this book. There's fake dating. It's friends to lovers, like Harry Met Sally vibes. It's got it all. And although it's YA, it feels a little bit steamy for YA, so keep that in mind. Like, if you truly are looking for a YA, there's some steamy makeout scenes, and like definitely the F word is used quite a bit, which is shocking for a YA book, but I'm not YA, so it doesn't bother me. But if you are, maybe check that out before you pick it up. But this is 5 stars. Then I read Bride this month on its release date. I devoured it in one day. I read it twice this month because it was that good and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So already have reread because it's now a comfort read to me. And this is 5 stars. It's so good. I love Adley Hazelwood. She's an auto buy. This was different for her. It wasn't a STEM romance, but still just as good as her other books. It's a arranged marriage between a vampire and a werewolf. It's fated mates. There's knots. If you're in the Omegaverse, you know it's a paranormal romance. There's honestly some like politics that are interesting, which I wouldn't expect from this kind of like paranormal romance. So needless to say, Adley Hazelwood killed with this book, and it's getting all the hype that it deserves, I think. So 5 stars. I truly, this is at the top of the pyramid of books that I read this month. Now, because I read Bride and The Fake Mate last month, I was on the hunt for some Omegaverse picks. So because of that, I read Shadow Wolf, which is the first in a series. I started the second in the series and then DNF'd it just because it wasn't the time for it. That's not to say that I won't ever read the second book, but for now, second book DNF'd. First book in the series, Shadow Wolf, is fated mates. It's like rejected fated mates, and not, it's just, it is, that Shadow Wolf is truly an Omegaverse book. Bride and the fake mate are more like teasing it. This is like what you expect from an Omegaverse. Lots of spice, minimal plot, werewolves, packs, alphas, omegas, the whole ordeal. And I ended up giving it 4 stars because I was feeling the Omegaverse at this time. Okay, don't judge me. It was 4 stars. Next, for Valentine's Day, my sister and I exchanged gifts, and because my sister knows me so well, she did in fact give me a hockey romance. This is Canadian Boyfriend by Ginny Holiday. I've never read anything by Ginny Holiday before, and I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I do think, check the trigger warnings at the beginning because there is talk of eating disorders and depression, anxiety, there's loss of a spouse. But I think similar to, honestly, how I would describe Abby Jimenez's books, she takes topics that are often and are sensitive and talks about them in a way that is well handled and well discussed. And I think it has great elements of that and romance, and it's spicy, but honestly not too spicy. I would, again, put it on the same level as like Abby Jimenez. And I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. It's single dad. She is the daughter's ballet teacher and ends up kind of nannying for him because he's a hockey player and he is traveling a lot for work, so she helps out while he's traveling. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. If you're into hockey romance, I would recommend, and it's a little bit more of a sophisticated hockey romance than like your typical hockey romance. If I was ranking sophistication of hockey romances, I'd put this more at the top. Next, I read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the Crowns of Nyxia book 2. I read the first one, Serpent and Wings of Night, in, I believe, November or December of last year. And I think I gave that one 3 stars, and I had said that I would read the second book in the series, but it wasn't a priority, and I finally got around to reading the second book. The second book I do think was better. I gave the second book 4 stars, and some of the quotes from this just are heart-wrenching. The love between our 2 main characters is truly, like, once they discover how, like, and admit to themselves and to each other how they feel, it's groundbreaking and it's so good. I think it's well done. It's better than the first one for sure. It's kind of what you expect from a series, is like the first one's more world building, the second one, then they get better from there. It is kind of a bummer to like put in the work of reading a first book and then be like, oh, it wasn't that good, and know you have to read a whole nother book to like really be fulfilled. Kind of a bummer, but this one was really good and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I ended up DNFing a different Carissa Broadbent book this month, which was The Daughter of No Worlds. So who's to say if Carissa Broadbent is really for me? But this series was. And as I was reading Bride, I was like, ooh, vampires. Interesting. I was just in this like paranormal fantasy world this month, apparently. So give that one 4 stars. Next, I read Southern Gentleman, which is by Jessica Peterson. Don't recommend. It's 2 stars. It was accidental pregnancy. Again, it was kind of like that Amy Dawes book that I read. There was also accidental pregnancy. I just saw a TikTok about it. I know I like accidental pregnancy. Thought maybe I'll read this. Why not? And it wasn't worth it. It was 2 stars. It was a waste of my brain capacity. Like, it's now taking up space in my brain that it didn't need to take up space. So, don't recommend. Next, I read How to Choose a Guy in 10 Days, which is a romance. It's a rom-com, and it's kind of like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Like, it's a spiff of that. How to Choose a Guy in 10 Days, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's like a bet for work that she can transform this guy into like a better version of himself in 10 days to like compete for a job at work. Obviously, he doesn't know. He gets upset when he finds out. And that is basically the premise. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It is what it is. You know, it's a classic 3-star romance. Nothing else to say about that. Next, I DNF'd Eileen by Otessa Mosh. I don't know how you pronounce her last name. This was my book that I was supposed to read for my book club retreat. We did watch the movie and we talked about the book. Almost everyone in the book club did not enjoy it. I couldn't even finish it. And I will not be going back to it. It's not one of those that I DNF'd and was like, oh, maybe later. This was never later. I don't want to read it again. So that's how I feel about Eileen. Next, I read Chasing I Do. Again, just a subpar romance. Did I give it 3 stars? No, I gave it 2 stars. Good. Because if I had given it 3, I was about to change it to 2. I have nothing to say about it. The plot was basic. It was single mom. Yeah. That's what I'm going to say about it. I didn't like it that much. Next, I reread Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. They did add this on Kindle Unlimited, so I saw that and was like, ooh, that'll be fun. And I read it on my Kindle. And so I just have the physical copy here, but they did add it on Kindle Unlimited. So if you've been wanting to read it and you have Kindle Unlimited, check it out on there. This was a 5-star read from last year. It's still a 5-star read. Jacob is the best MMC there will ever be. That's an exaggeration, but he is truly a great MMC. The way he is written is top tier. He has anxiety, but he is self-aware. He goes to therapy. There's fake dating in this. And truly, like I said when I was talking about Canadian Boyfriend, Abby Jimenez does such a good job of taking difficult topics and writing about them in such a respectful way, but also keeping things lighthearted, and she has a gift. So, well done. This is still 5 stars. Next, I read Icebound by Meredith Trapp. This is a new release. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and then You've Been Promoted. I did, in fact, promote it to physical copy because it was that good. It's fake dating for a touch. Age gap, major age gap, which I love age gap. It's a hockey romance. It's spicy. It has a lot of the things that I love. It really had some of my favorite tropes all combined into one. And for that reason, I did give it 4 stars, and it did get promoted to physical copy level. And it's going to be a series. This is the first in a series, and I'm already excited for the second one to follow the other guys' stories. Because I think the next one is going to be single dad, because there's a single dad in here, and I'm just excited about that. Next, I read How Not to Die Alone. I read this for a reading vlog, which has not come out yet, so I won't talk about it too much. If you want to hear more about it, go watch that reading vlog. but that video is reading books that have been on my TBR for a long time. And this has been on my TBR since 2019, so 4 years. And I'm glad I read it. It was 3 stars. It's not romance. It's definitely just fiction. I don't even want to say women's fiction because the author is a man. I hardly ever read books written by men. The main characters, or the main character, works, it's set in the UK. He works for the government when people die and they don't have any relatives or enough money. He like plans the funerals. It's kind of morbid. He definitely is like on the spectrum. He has like Asperger's or something like that. And he has like created this fake life that he is married and has kids in the office when he is not married, does not have kids, and in fact lives alone. And you kind of discover the why behind this life that he's created and how he ended up here. And it's also his journey of what can I do differently so that I don't end up like these people that I'm trying to help, so I don't end up dying alone, as the title says. So 3 stars. It's probably 5 stars for some people, but this, it's just not my cup of tea that I normally read. It's not bad, it's just different for me. So 2 more books. Next, I read The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This was and is, it's a series. I'm excited to keep reading the series. It's arranged marriage, enemies to lovers, fantasy. She's, the MMC is like awesome, badass spy, and is like sent to marry the king of the enemy kingdom to like form a peace treaty, but really she's there to spy, but they fall in love. It's just, you know, it's what you're looking for in a fantasy. It had a lot of what I was looking for. And I guess it's fantasy, but also no one had like magical powers. So maybe it's not fantasy. I don't know how to describe it if no one has like powers. Is it still a fantasy book? I think so, but I don't know what the genre would be if it's not fantasy. So someone let me know. And then finally, I read The Last Thing He Told Me, also for that video of reading books that have been on my TBR for a while. I ended up giving this one, what did I end up giving this one? 4 stars. No, 3 stars, 3.5. I will, again, I talked about that book in that video, so I won't talk about it a ton on here, but this is a mystery, and they actually made a show out of it that has Jennifer Garner that looks interesting, so I might watch the show now that I've read the book. But those are all of the books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's count up and see how many I read, because I'm sure it was astronomical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And it is in fact the 27th of February, so I'm filming this early, so I did read more than 1 book per day. I have read almost 60 books this year so far, and we are in month 2 of the year. Again, I know it's excessive, but I go through this. I know it's excessive, but this is the stage of life I'm in, you know? I'm reading a lot, I'm not watching TV, so I'm still hanging out with friends, I still have a social life, but I'm also reading a lot. And it won't always be like that. Maybe later on in the year, I'll be in a 3-month slump and won't read a single thing. And that's okay because I read a ton and I don't need to read that much, but I enjoy it and that's where I'm at right now. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in another video or somewhere else on the internet. Again, links to everything is always down below. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.